Okay. The agenda is present on the screen.
All right. Thank you so much. So, are we live?
Yes, sir. You're live on Facebook.
All right, let's go. All right, greetings, Douglas County. This is Kelly Robinson, Chairman of the Finance Committee, Commissioner of the 2nd District, and Vice Chair. This is our February meeting, February 14th, 2022. Happy Valentine's Day to all that are participating in that exercise today. Nonetheless, we're going to be sensitive to today's meeting. We did start 1 hour later. This meeting was originally started at 2, but now it's 3 p.m. But we're going to keep it tight. We thank our guests that are here because, again, we got a pretty full agenda. Right now, let me go ahead and establish roll call just to make sure we've got a quorum. We'll go around the room from highest rank to the, obviously lower rank. So I'll start with myself, Kelly Robinson, Chair of the Finance Committee.
And Jones Geiger, Vice Chair of the committee. And everybody that's not speaking needs to mute their screen, please.
Thank you, Madam Geiger. Deputy?
Frederick Perry, Deputy County Administrator.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, Assistant County Administrator.
James Worthington, Managing Director of Development and Planning for Douglas County.
Very good. Rosalind?
Good afternoon, Rosalind Miller, Finance.
Very good. So with that being said, I think our entire 5-member voting members are here. And so we've got a quorum. Thank you, Deputy Worthington, for being here. Are there any other keynote people that are stakeholders in this meeting that may be present? Do we have any other directors?
Yes, Latanya Ammons, Procurement.
Director Emmons, welcome. Thank you for being here.
This is David Gitt, 2016 SLUS.
Thank you, David. Thank you for being here.
Miguel
Okay.
Valentin, Transportation.
Miguel, welcome. Again, I'm going to mute myself as soon as I can, guys. I know I'm in the airport, but let me go ahead and kick this off. So we've got an agenda that's before us. I'm going to make one adjustment to it, Director Miller, not to add anything to the agenda, but just to make it more succinct. I mean, beyond the meeting minutes going first. The first item of business, I'd like to stick with your presentation you got to have. But the third thing that we're talking about, let's bring that up second, and let's bring up TANs behind that as fourth. All right. So it's currently third as a talking point, make it second. Then third, then bring TANs up to fourth, please, in that order.
Excuse me, Commissioner, this is Wendy. Rosalind updated the agenda.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, sorry, ma'am.
Did.
All right, y'all are on it. Well, great. With that being said, Director Miller, I'm going to step back and you go ahead and take us from there.
Okay, the first is the approval of the minutes, and attached is October 18th, 2021, November 17th of 2021. December's meeting was canceled, so I just listed there just to spread it upon the minutes. Just if one goes back and wonder where it's December. So I just listed December, but that meeting was canceled.
That means is that we've got basically two monthly meeting minutes representing 3 months because 1 month was canceled. Duly noted, the meeting minutes have been properly circulated or at least presented to everybody. Can I get a motion to adopt the meeting minutes as presented unless there needs to be some type of amendment, edit, or deletion?
Moved.
Second.
All right, I got a motion by Deputy Perry and Madam ACA Stewart Stanley gave the second. Any discussion? None. None. All right.
Jeremy, I don't have the minutes from the November 17th. Where were they posted? They weren't sent to me. Or I've missed them somewhere, but
Let's make sure everybody's part of the distribution. Madam Guide, we will make sure you get that, those meeting minutes. So therefore, she can't vote on things that she hasn't been presented with, guys. So let's pause that for right now. We'll come back to it, duly noted. But it's important. It can't just be on the agenda without a proper, you have to at least get them. Whether we read it or not is one thing. It's another that they have to be published. So
Well,
with
if I
that,
missed it, I apologize. But I just looked, I didn't see it. I don't know when it's sent out, whether it's sent out a week or 2 weeks before or whatever.
can anybody salvage the moment? Yes or no? Else I'm gonna table it.
Let's see, hold on 1 second. Commissioner Goddard, on the email that was sent out today, you said November 17th. I see some finance committee minutes dated November 17th. Is that what you're looking for?
When was it sent out? I'm sorry.
Hold on 1 second. Looks like today.
No, minutes should be sent out ahead of time because we've been in meetings all day. So anyway, I'll just abstain.
No. I mean, it's the point. It doesn't stop us. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get this right. All right. So I'm going to pick this up. I'm not going to just call a question. That's all I have to do. So I'm not going to call a question after all. We got a motion second, but I don't have to call the question. So we're just going to let this die as is. We'll table it into our next meeting, guys. As a rule for our finance committee, we would like to have the meeting minutes sent out at the same time you send out the agenda, which is typically 1 week before the meeting, just like our outstanding board of commissioner meetings. Deputy, sir, can you make sure that happens? That there's some
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right, no problem. Doesn't stop the agenda, guys. We're fine. Thank you, Madam Guide, for that. Thank you for the clarity. Yes. All right, Director Miller, keep moving. Next agenda item.
Next is the business items, and first is the capital project assessment update.
Yes.
Mr. Evans with, he's the senior manager with Malden and Jenkins. And I believe he's going to need access
Yep.
to show his.
Mr. Evans, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to share my screen, but it says that another participant is sharing, so it's not allowing me to.
Can you guys help him, please, or
Please,
unshare?
please try now, Mr. Evans. Can you do it now?
Yes. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tim Evans. I am with Malden and Jenkins, and we were brought in to review the transportation center building project. As part of this, if you would like a quick update, I can give you a few of the details of the project, or if everyone is familiar with it, I can forego these the little bit of history notes that I've provided. Commissioner Robinson, do you have a preference?
Yeah, just give context. It's been a minute. Give it a good time frame. It's okay. Give your historical perspective.
Certainly. Okay. Perfect. This project was to expand the county's multimodal transportation center building. It began in May of 2015. It was based on a grant that was requested from the Federal Transit Administration, the FTA, which was the original funding source when the building was built originally. It's a reimbursable grant, which means the county pays the expenses, then seeks reimbursement from FTA. It also requires a 20% match by local funds to the 80% provided by the FTA. Originally, the project was to expand and renovate the transportation center building. It was also to construct a freestanding maintenance facility, a new park and ride lot, and then purchase additional passenger vans for the commuter van pool program. This goes back, like I said, to 2015. In 2016, the county posted an RFP for architectural services for the building. In May 2016, the Board of Commissioners approved Carter Watkins Associates as the vendor for the architectural plans. Over those next 18 months, Carter Watkins worked with county staff to prepare the project plan. to the point that by May of 2018, the county purchasing department released an RFP for construction services for the renovation and expansion of the building. However, no selection was ultimately approved. All of the bid amounts for that particular RFP came in at amounts that were above the funds available to the county. So in March of 2019, the Board of Commissioners ultimately rejected all bid proposals. At that point, the Transportation Department, the ride share, worked with FTA to realign the funding items for the grant. So there was no adjustment in the overall amount of the grant, but they were in fact realigned. So instead of like a separate maintenance facility, the plans for that maintenance facility was integrated into the renovation of the Transportation Center building. Ultimately, the county rideshare, Carter Watkins, revised the scope of the renovations, hopefully to make it within the funds available. Point in May of 2019, the county purchasing department issued a new second RFP for construction services. In August of 2019, the Board of Commissioners approved the selection of Headley Construction Corporation to perform those renovations. The later part of that year and into the beginning of 2020, Headley performed the work of the renovation project. There were only 3 change orders issued on the project. All 3 of those change orders were at the request of the county, not by Headley, and all 3 were approved by the Board of Commissioners. The first one had to do with a retaining wall behind the building. That was at the request of Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority. The second and third change orders were related to sensors in the HVAC system that were requested by the fire marshal. By April and May of 2020, Headley completed all work and had provided the guarantees and warranties that were required as part of that contract. Also, if you'll recall, that was around the same period of the COVID-19 lockdowns. And so there was, that was a period of time, I believe, where employees were either working from alternate locations or there were delays in having staff access this building, although the renovations were complete. In January of 2021, county officials raised concerns about the completeness of the building to the Transportation Department director. They had staff to review all of the contracts and all of the details, and they determined that 2 small repairs were not completed that should have been. They contacted Headley Construction, and those repairs were immediately made at no cost to the county. Ultimately, over the next few months, there was a question about a ceiling-mounted projector in the new training room. After reviewing the contract, it was determined that Headley that should have never been even a contemplation for Headley. It was never part of their original contract. So the county provided the projector. There was a missing bracket that attached the projector to the ceiling. And ultimately, the division ordered the bracket and ensured that the installation was complete and that it was functioning correctly. In our review, we talked to a number of employees that were a part of the project, as well as we reviewed a lot of documents. In doing so, we were able to recognize that the county does not have a capital projects group, and that it did not appear that there was any oversight on this project by a facility manager. We had identified preliminary observations related to the project, and I won't read all of these out loud, but I've provided them here so that you can review them at your leisure. We were getting into some of the specifics around policies, especially observation number 1. We were not given any policies that were related to the management of construction projects. So if the county, this may be an opportunity in the future that the county may want to create some policies. The second observation has to do with that there was no real determination of the oversight of the construction projects for the county-owned buildings and facilities. That would certainly be an opportunity if the county determined that that was a need in the future. The third observation has to do with policies and procedures outlining the application of and awarding of federal funding, state funding, or other third-party funding. And this really just has to do with the financial component and perhaps a consideration for a county policy of the records that are required, where does the burden fall in terms of streams, as well as the financial requirements for those funding reporting requirements. Observation number 4 relates to the mandated financial and periodic reporting. That we did not see any evidence that there were policies that dictated who would be responsible for those reports and where those that responsibilities would lie within the county, and then who would maintain copies of those. Number 5 deals with the perhaps either an internal resource or a solicited vendor to serve as a general project manager on behalf of the county. In our conversations with the purchasing department, they indicated at some point that there was a realization that this was a need, and so they have started including this, but this was not the case at the time of this contract. Number 6 ultimately is assigning responsibility for this construction project, and in this particular case, there did not appear to be an indication that there was one person or one area that was ultimately responsible for the construction part of this. Number 7 has to do with policies and supporting documentation regarding the request for payment by vendors, and just citing a need for perhaps stronger policies or more detailed policies that would outline the requirements for those requests, the supporting documentation that perhaps needs to be attached, and just providing a central location for those policies and requirements. Number 8 gets into the document retention, and when there are projects of this scope, just ensuring that there is an entity within the county that is ultimately responsible for all of the document retention for the project. And then the last one was a recognition for the hard work that the Connect Douglas staff had performed related to the Davis-Bacon Act responsibilities as the FTA contractor, that Headley Construction was required to follow the Davis-Bacon Act requirements, and the department did a very good job of documenting their efforts and the conversations with staff to meet those requirements. Our next steps is that we've just been provided within the last week some additional documentation and some specificity for some documents that we've been provided that included a crosswalk for some information that we had requested previously. So at this point, hopefully within the next week, we will be able to complete that review of those financial documents. We were also provided a point of contact for an additional county employee that may have insight into the construction processes. So we will also get that interview scheduled. And once we have those complete, we should be able to issue our final report within 3 weeks of completing the document reviews and the final interview. Just for, so you could see who all we have spoken to at this point, the box on the left are all the interviews that we've conducted or conversations that we've had with county staff. The information on the right was some of the additional interviews that we had hoped to attain. And just realizing that also in the course of our review, we were not allowed or provided access to the former director that was the director in charge during this project. And then there was also a more current director that was on a leave of absence during our interviews that we were not given access to. So that we're not sure if they would have been able to provide any additional information to some of the holes that we had seen. This is just merely a list of all the documents that we had received to date. And then Appendix C were some of the documents that we had originally requested or had not been provided. We are going to review this list and compare it to the documents that were given to us last week to see if those meet any of those requirements. This is the final list of the documents that we had requested, perhaps even from other areas. So at this point, we hope to be finalizing our review within the next week or so of the documents as well as the interview. And then from that point, we would be able to issue our final report, hopefully within 3 weeks, depending on what we find in that review. And Commissioner Robinson, I think that's all of the information I have at this point.
Mr. Evans, excellent update. Can you guys see me? Okay, all right, you still get, all right, yeah, no, excellent update for the, obviously for this committee. This was a project that obviously I took on as sort of a one-off committee of one, based on some concerns that we had as a board regarding that project and its scope. But you drove home everything I've been saying for 90 days. And Director Amos, I hope that you're hearing this, which is, right, there's lack of oversight.
Yes.
I mean, it's not an indictment moment. This is more of a, okay, thank you. Now let's move forward. I mean, this is screaming everything I've been saying. It affirms, confirms, validates, not that that was necessary. But you guys get the point. You say one thing, but now when somebody goes in there and it's like, okay, but where are your receipts? Where's your proof that we're doing okay? Now we proactively, this is what's important here, and I've got my auditor sitting here. You know, by the way, not being able to pay my auditor for 6, 7, 8 months, guys. Y'all know that's not good. But to put that on record. Nobody owned any of this, not even paying the auditor that's looking into this project. I gotta say it for the record. Madam God, it wasn't so much that there was some malfeasance. It was just the fact that this is indicative, like, okay, we're talking about we want to handle all this down the pipeline and we can't handle this one. We can, we just needed some focus. We need to put resources behind that area. Like you said, program management, compliance, oversight. It wasn't about New World. It's about, they know you guys, it's basic stuff y'all are lacking. But that's on the board. So with that being said, I won't belabor this. Mr. Evans, do you believe that this is something, now this is just supposed to be an update to everybody. I'm now on a new committee. Me and Madam Guider are now chair and vice chair of this. So we got a different look, different style how we're gonna approach these type of things. So this is, Madam Guider, this was just an update for us to get on the same page. He has not completed his report. We need to let him finish his report and he'll come back hopefully by next month. Deputy, Mr. Deputy, when is our next finance committee meeting? What's the date? Or Rosalind? And ask him, Mr. Evans, do you think that you can have a final report to us by then? And then obviously I would want this to go, this whole report to go straight to the Board of Commissioners, independent of us. Go straight to the board.
Commissioner Robinson, we should be able to complete the review, but I need to just offer the footnote that we definitely need to have enough time to review the information that was given to us last week and to interview the remaining person. So I don't foresee any problems, but I would, as soon as you all let me know when that next meeting is, I'll put that as a goal for sure.
You got it. And so, Deputy, we need to make sure that was one of the things he had often experienced. We didn't have cooperation. We didn't have cooperation from staff. We didn't have access. You had obstruction. You had things over in finance that I'm like, okay, no, I'm gonna come back to that later. There's no way that you cannot give the auditor access to our system. That's me. Whether he says, well, if you don't know how to give me the information, just give me access. I'm more than capable. But I got to bring some of this stuff out, guys. No, that's enough of this now. This was intentional, and we need to fix that, Deputy. Please. Sir,
okay.
Can you
Yes, sir.
Get into that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right, I want to pause right here because we got some presentations come behind us. But Madam Guider, of course, you have a moment. Whatever you would like to ask or say regarding this, please take the floor.
Well, it's alarming. I can say that, not having oversight of a building, expansion, but I think part of it was the wrong person was put in charge to begin with, and then they left the county. So I don't know why he would have been put in charge when we do have an engineer that handles other buildings. So don't understand it, but we'll find out when you finish your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Guider. We got that. Anybody else, any other committee members? This is just a readout, guys. We don't have to respond. That's some great reading. Can y'all ensure that my peers gets this ASAP? Forward that report to all of them. Just say FYI, today's transportation finance committee meeting. They need to get this. As soon as we got it, they should have it. Can you make sure we get that done, Director Miller?
Yes, sir.
Or Deputy, either one?
Yes, sir. I work with Rosalind to make sure that happens, Vice Chair.
Mr. Evans, again, on behalf of the full board of commissioners, we apologize, but appreciate us. I know you see a lot of different jurisdictions, and we're going through some growth pains as we transition. So thank you for your patience, but thank you for your integrity and how you handle this. And all I can say is please finish your work, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, Director Miller, going to the next one. We got presentations. Bring the next group up. Groups up.
Okay, the next is countywide HVAC replacement. And I believe James.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, I'm on the line.
Perfect. Can
Good
you
afternoon,
introduce-
everyone. So basically, as Rosalind just mentioned, the HVAC replacement countywide, basically what we're looking for, I've had some discussions with Commissioner Robinson on this, and basically a project has sort of been coming into fruition that would replace all of our aging HVAC systems throughout the county, primarily looking for the HVAC units that are at least 15 years old and they go up to 25 years old, or maybe 26 now. But so basically we're looking for some options as far as funding, options as far as programming. You know, what are some things we can do? And because of that, we've got two different companies that are going to provide some feedback and maybe some varying options. And I believe on the agenda, Amoresco is first. And Ms. Tanisha Marshall, are you on the line?
Yes, James, I'm on the line.
Hi there, how are you?
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Well, if no one has any issue with it, I'll let Ms. Tanisha Marshall take it away.
Okay, thanks, James. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with everyone. We do have a brief presentation, not a ton of slides, because in the interest of time and out of respect for the county's time as well. So on the call from Amoresco today, we have myself, Tanisha, and also Vince Strayling. Vince, are you on?
I am. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
So what we wanted to do today is talk through, I'll get to the other one, talk through some of the things that we are planning to assist the county with for the phase 2 is what we've been calling your infrastructure improvement initiative. Okay, there we go. So like I said today, we don't have a huge slide deck. We wanted to take this opportunity to talk through some points that we have on this slide here. Just as a recap for everyone on the call who may not have been involved in the first project, the county decided to invest in an infrastructure revitalization project back in late 2017, started in 2018, and in which we were the partners, your energy management partners for that. In that phase 1 project, the total investment was a little over $2 million, and the contract length was 15 years. We are currently in year 2 of the guaranteed savings portion for this project, and we're happy to report that as of the year 2, the county has seen a surplus in savings. So that just means what we guaranteed during the contract term you're actually seeing an additional savings to that. For phase one, we decided to keep the project scope to only the measures that were self-funding. And this is the reason why the HVAC units were not included, is because even though the county will see some savings with the replacement and refurbishment of that equipment, it was not enough to include in the first phase of the project because it wasn't totally self-funding. Now, as we get to the phase two of this project, Amoresco, again, would love to assist the county with the replacement and the refurbishment, again, helping with this whole infrastructure revitalization initiative. Some of the things that we can offer you here, before I start into some of the points, some of the value that Amoresco can bring, we've had several conversations with the county as of now. So we had a conversation, I think we presented back in April of 2021, our plan on how to assist the county with their project. We talked to the former county administrator back in late fall. We got some more information as far as what the county was planning to do with the replacement project.
Down for your disability. No, that's not true.
I'm sorry.
I know that. Actually, not everybody's turned out, but you were turned out.
I'm sorry, I don't want to talk over that person.
Everybody needs to move their microphone, please.
Administrative law judge with the Social Security Administration issued by the board.
Okay, thank you. So we've had several conversations, and again, one as recently as last week where I spoke with James and got a little bit more of an understanding of what the county is looking for as far as assistance with this HVAC project. So one of the things that Amoresco can offer as a continued partner with the county is in process. We can offer a streamlined development and construction process. That includes competitive bidding from several vendors. Also, we can leverage our corporate buying power. The next part of this is funding. We heard James say that he was looking for some options as far as funding was concerned, and we can present two options. One that we've spoken about in the past, which was energy as a service, and then also TELP, which is a tax-exempt lease purchase. Both of these options give the county the ability to pay over time. So if you didn't want to procure the entire project at one time, either of these two options could be a very viable solution so that you can have payments over time. And then the next part of this is the procurement piece that's included. So with the former conversation that we had with the county administrator, there was some talk about using ARPA funds, some of the stimulus funds there. And in order to use those funds, what we've seen is that the vendor has to be able to use the GSA contract, which we can. So those are some of the things that we can bring to this second phase of the HVAC project. That's the last slide. So now I want to open it up for questions from the committee, from James. If you have anything, any more information that you need or any additional detail.
So real quick, I would just like to, by the way, this is James Worthington. I know in our previous agreement, sort of the phase one setup, we did a, guaranteed savings, and we had a payment plan based on it over the 15 years. If we did this proposal for this HVAC project, you're proposing the same kind of thing. Do you have any estimate of what those payments might look like?
So it's not totally the same type of vehicle that we'd be able to use, James. With the project scope that we had with the first project, all of those measures are self-funding. And so one of the reasons why I put the guaranteed and the demonstrated savings there. With the HVAC equipment, as you know, typically offers a longer payback than some of these other items. So, and it wouldn't be a totally self-funded measure. So the county would have to add some capital in order to procure this project.
So it would be somewhat of a reverse. We wouldn't have the guaranteed savings. I'm going to just throw some numbers out, but say, the savings might be 30,000 a year, but the cost is 50,000 a year or something like that. But the excess cost we would pay over that same maybe 15-year length. But we would be realizing the savings along the way, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I see Vince nodding his head. Vince, do you have something to add to that?
I think Mr. Worthington, had it exactly right. And then it would depend on how long, in regards to what your payment size is. It depends on how long you would want to stretch those payments out. Just like any financing, we could go a 10-year financing, your payments would be more, or we could go up to 20 years and your payments would be less. The good thing, since it is a lot of HVAC equipment, those usually have 20-year life cycles. So we try to match term of the program to the life cycle of the equipment. So we do have a longer term available for a project like this.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Any questions?
No, Director. Yes. Can you hear me, Director Worthington?
Sir.
All right.
Yeah, we hear you.
No. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Marshall, for the presentation. Just as backdrop, and again, I appreciate the oversight of what happened in our initial efforts on dealing with lighting and plumbing, some of the things that we did initially. For the new community members, recall, there's always been a common thread through the Board of Commissioners that we recognize that not only is our population aging, but the assets that this aging population put in place a while ago has aged. And the county is having to refurbish, redevelop, and replace certain things. This topic is like a kitchen table topic. While I get savings, like, look, my mother's air conditioner's gone out twice. It's like, at some point, quit fixing on mine. Let's replace it. Right? And so we're trying to, but not only that, I do recognize, and again, Director Amos is on here, that we recognize for the first time in history, we can actually do, a countywide, like, okay, guys, we got one time to get this right. We can be thoughtful. We don't have to be thirsty. But here's a chance for us to replace all this and get on a normal cycle, a normal replacement cycle, just with our fleet, like in public safety. So now, as opposed to just being reactive and a one-off, can we be more strategic and intentional, Director Amos, to help us on how to maintain assets? What's my inventory? Where's my data to even be able to make that decision? Right, so we're in a good place, but at the same point, we have a window of time. James, as a source of funding, we talked about this before. We once thought this might have been part of ARP, but I made a move and the board agreed to, made a motion. The board agreed to sort of take this out of general funds. So in other words, we recognize we got to put cash on this. If in fact our vendors can come up with a finance solution that allows me to save on that, great. I still got to replace it. The intention is not to say whether or not we can make savings. The point is, guys, it's going to fail. Let's go ahead and get to replace these things over time that are so aged. So I just wanted to make that point. Obviously, we got another presentation on this, but I had to bring that out in this context. Madam Gardner, anything you want to just raise as a general comment before we go to the next one?
The only thing I would question is, like in the technology committee, we replaced computers when they had like 5 years or whatever. Why do we have to do it all at one time instead of just age them out? You said 15 to 25 years.
Right. So I can chime in on that. The short answer is we don't have to do it all at one time, but the longer answer is we've not done any replacement of aging out. So now is kind of an opportunity to catch up, if you will, and then get on to a more routine replacement of, ideally after this project's complete, we will only be replacing a handful each year that are at that age limit. But because we've kind of kicked the can down the road for a while, we're behind. We've got to get caught up first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I still don't understand why we have to do it all at one time. We could, do the 15 to 20 one year, and then pick up the rest the next year. There may be a lot of people out here that need a new air conditioning or heating system. But if they don't have money, they can't do it. So, but they may save for it, and that's what capital outlay would be for. But it just seems like we could do it in phases rather than everything at one time. I don't think the county is going to be wanting to, stretch it out 15, 20 years, whatever. Mr. Is it Drewlin?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think the county would want to do it. I'd be surprised if they did, because that's kind of like long-term debt, and we don't have anything right now. So we've kind of tried to steer away from that. But take the oldest ones, replace them first, and then hopefully we can build up our capital outlay. And who knows what the next year will work. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
No, thank you, Madam Guider. And to that point, and again, just for the record, the Board of Commissioners did approve $500,000 million to address this situation. So Director Worthington, Deputy, ACA, you guys will work through, but you've already been providing the funding. You got to come up with a solution. So go out here, find someone to help solve this problem. So we're down a path, and Madam Guider, what they're doing right now is coming back based on what the board set in motion to do. You've already appropriated this $500,000. Come up with an answer for us to address. Just like I said, we talk about air, we talk about the pandemic, we talk about some of the things that we say we want, but then when it's time to move, it's up to staff to make sure that we've got the right plan in place. So I think you guys are doing a great job. Let's not belabor this, because I think we gave them sufficient time. We need to give the next people sufficient time. So with nothing else with that, Director Worthington, can you bring up the next person, please? Next group.
Certainly. Well, thank you to the Amoresco.
Thank you, Amoresco. Thank you.
Appreciate your presence here. And
Thank you.
we'll move on to I3, and we've got Mr. Willie Powell and Greg Boych. Hope I pronounced that right, Mr. Greg. If you guys are on the line, can you hear me? All right.
Yes, hi.
Okay, go ahead there.
Great. Thank you very much. It's Mark Bamford speaking, and you're right. We have Greg Vetch on the line, Willie Powell, and our other colleague Ryan Joyce on the line as well. So good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Nice to meet you via Zoom. We have a very brief presentation. Many of you know us, many of you don't know us. So ours is a more general presentation to kind of introduce I3. Who is I3? What is I3? What do we do? And how can we be helpful to Douglas County? So I3 stands for Impact Infrastructure Investing. We focus on deferred maintenance needs and capital improvement plan needs for municipalities, universities, schools, and hospitals. So counties like Douglas County as an example. So Ryan, if you go to this page. So this is just an overview of the company. We provide, if you step back, we provide a design, build, finance solution, again, to deferred maintenance and capital improvement plans that the county may have. And I noted that you don't have a capital projects group. We act as advisors to our clients, both on deferred maintenance issues and the issue about, do we do everything up front? Do we do everything over time? We act as an advisor. We work with clients and advise clients on what's the most efficient way to address, the issues. What are the most important issues? What are the ways to address those issues? Bottom, there are 9 boxes here that indicate some of the things that are important in terms of how we work with clients. The bottom right box is really important, which is our partnerships with premier engineering firms, as well as project management / construction firms. So we've got operating agreements and very strong partnerships that allow us and help us to provide the best possible advice and execution for our clients. Local. So another point we would want to leave you with is that we work with as local as we need and want to be. So we would work with you with regards to vendors, with regards to contractors, with regards to subcontractors, DBEs and the like, just to make sure we have the right group and a representative group, and hopefully a group that represents Douglas County and perhaps surrounding areas very well. No upfront costs. That's important. You as the client would incur no upfront costs. Those are borne by somebody else, and you pay them out over time. I've made the point about local participation. That's important to clients. Clients like you, it's very important, and it's important to us. Ours is a very transparent process in all aspects, and we can talk about that later, but it's a very, very, very transparent process. And we are responsible for the reps and warranties. We're responsible for the reps and warranties. Again, you think about, we'll go to the next page. My partner, Greg, will walk through some of the things we can work with you on. We're responsible for the reps and warranties. So if maintenance is an issue, if maintaining equipment over time, is an issue, we will work with you on that. We're responsible for the representations of warranties, and we will put the right teams in place to make sure that's happening. And as owner of the reps and warranties, we're as motivated as you are to make sure that is happening. So with that, Ryan, you can go to the next page.
So as we break it down here, thank you for the time today. On the deferred maintenance side, obviously we're talking specifically HVAC today, chillers and things. We also do water infrastructure. Transfer stations are a thing that's important and part of our business. Transformers, elevators, other people movers, windows, roofs, bridges, emergency generators. We're talking vehicle fleets, EV charging stations, and other things. If you're talking about a building envelope on a new build and future capital plans, we can do about 30% of the build. So you talk lighting, windows, roofs, HVAC, boilers, elevators, water infrastructure, security systems, parking garages and LPRs are another thing we can do. Safety equipment and broadband is another thing that we're becoming very active in. So it's a wide array of things that we look to help you address your deferred maintenance and your future capital plan issues. So.
Right. I think, Ryan, we'll skip right past page 4. Page 4 was it's a numerical example. It doesn't, it's too broad. It's too general for purposes of this discussion, but it was simply a way. There's all kinds of work streams. One of them is, okay, if there are no upfront costs, how do we think about costing this project? And in its example, it's an example, a generic example, but to actually work with you on a project, we would get in and we would scope that out and take this concept of, we've got an X $1 million project. How do we think about that in terms of its useful life and what the payment is? And we work with you on that. So it's a modeling exercise, but it's a transparent modeling exercise. And for this group, it's not worth going through a generic example of how that works. We would do that in detail with you at another time.
Questions? Any questions? Anyone?
Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. Good information. And so I'm going to yield just for a moment to obviously my committee members. Madam Dotto, I'll let you have the last word, but I'd love to get Director Amens in here. Why don't you just weigh in, spotting what you're seeing. Again, I know you're brand new. You're not bound anything, but any questions that you'd like to ask, please help frame the conversation so Madam Dotto and I can come back later and respond, please.
Yes, the first question I have, I guess, to both presenters was, does your pricing include like maintenance, right? The cost of maintenance, the cost of repair, or are we still, or is the purpose just to kind of get us the new machines that we need? I'm sorry, HVACs.
I'll speak for I3. Maintenance is included.
Okay.
It is part of our monthly payment.
Okay, and is that also, what about testing? If they're troubleshooting, that's included in the maintenance?
Yeah, so since we're responsible for all the reps and warranties, everything's going to be IoT sensor monitored. So anytime there is an issue, work order will go out immediately to whoever. If your staff is doing the maintenance, we'll be observing them. If not, we'll work on hiring a local maintenance partner to be able to do that, and we'll be monitoring that from them.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Marshall?
From Amoresco's standpoint, it really will depend on which financing vehicle that the county chooses to go with. Typically, we can include maintenance in our contracts, but it's something that would have to be discussed or decided on with the county team.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Most of our clients don't want to displace their maintenance staff.
Mm-hmm.
So most of our clients like to keep their maintenance staff on staff and use their local employees there to perform maintenance. So we have both options available.
Okay.
Our typical customers choose to perform maintenance with their existing staff.
Okay. And so I know that Commissioner Guider, just had some concerns as far as replacing it all now or later. And Commissioner Robinson, cleared that up. But I am also just going to ask, I'm sure, James, we have the list of the number of the number of HVACs, the year that each one was, has been in service. And I'm asking that as far as we continue to roll this out, I'm interested also in further costs, right? So if we replace 5 this month and then need to replace, 7, according to schedule, according to phases in a couple of months, I'm concerned about the increase in pricing, increase in labor, So I guess my point is your pricing fixed regardless of how we want to install and on the payment schedule that we have, that we decide as a Board of Commissioners?
So I'll take the first stab at that. One thing that I can say is the pricing that you got maybe 2 years ago or a year ago when you started just kind of inquiring about how much this was going to cost is different than what it is today. And it's just because the demand and equipment has gone up so tremendously. Mm-hmm. And not to, spark a sense of urgency for the county. Of course, you're going to do this in your own time frame and when it's feasible and it makes sense to you. But the advantage of doing the units that are at the end of life, as well as maybe some that are close to the end of life now, it just would behoove you to address those versus wait continually when the prices go up and labor goes up and that sort of thing. So, and again, not to rush you or not to, push a sense of urgency, but just to make you aware of the conditions of what's happening in today's climate.
Yeah, it's Mark Bamford. I think that's a great point. I think we would, if we were working together, we would talk about exactly that point, which is to say, let's say there's 50 projects, 50, potential HVAC projects or something else that you're focused on. As we're all reading every single day and seeing in pricing every single day, the challenge of do it all now, do some of it now, do some of it later has been complicated by inflation. It's been complicated by something that wasn't as really an issue even 6 months ago. It wasn't a major issue. So it's more of an issue today. And we would work with you. We would advise you. We would quantify it. We would show you what's the advantage of doing X number of projects this year, Y number of projects this year, Z number of projects this year. What's the financial responsibility, i.e. payment, to do that, and what's the cost? What could be the cost if you wait a year or 2 or 3 as opposed to pushing projects forward? So it's a great question, important point. And the answer is going to be a function of it's your answer. I mean, we'll help you quantify that. At the end of the day, that's a balance that you have to decide. This group has to decide. How much do you want to do now, and what financial resource does that take? Knowing that if the world is today the way it will be a year from now, prices will be higher a year from now. So financing today is probably better than financing a year from now. Purchasing today is probably better than a year from now. But as somebody, made the point earlier, we don't want to do everything right now. So that's fine. It's a trade-off, and it's something we would, we work as advisors, so we would work through that with you and quantify the advantages of doing more today, pushing things forward versus moving things back a year or 2.
Okay, and I guess my last point, like you said, you mentioned the financing for both groups as you all look for us to have financial, some creative solutions. I guess I'm gonna take a step back and say, as a taxpayer, you know, I would hate to kind of finance this thing for, let's say, 10 years, and then HVAC one needs to be replaced, right? Nothing worse than having a car. You have this long, you know, payment history, and then you wreck it, and then you have to buy a new one, and you still owe money. So I guess my point is, with some of the creative financial terms, are we able to make large payments? Are we able to pay down the debt in advance without penalty? Can we get creative? Because I'm saying I just don't want to necessarily hold taxpayers, you know, on the line for 10 years, and then something happens, and we need to go back, and we haven't paid for it, and yet we need to, replacement. Or we figure that even though you all have done the assessments, you all have recommended a particular model, a particular size, with our internal group, and it turns out that that particular model is not best serving that building. I mean, you all are the experts. It just we need more capacity, so now we need a new machine. And so my question is, how much flexibility in the numbers will I see, or do we have, as far as obligation to the taxpayer as far as financing, and then two, possible having the wrong size unit at that particular location, and it wasn't necessarily our assessment that we needed that model, but yours.
Vince, I want you to go ahead and take the financing portion of that, because I think you can explain how, I really like how you do that.
Yeah, thanks, Tanisha. I think and we presented multiple options there for financing. I want to be real clear. Amoresco, as a contractor, we do not use financing as a profit center. Okay. So we're helping arrange you with different financing vehicles that are out there. The most common one that our customers select is the tax-exempt lease purchase. Okay. And that's because that gives them really one of the lowest interest rates that's available. Mm-hmm. And then those payments end up being subject to annual appropriations. So each year you have to appropriate the funds to make that lease payment. Okay. And then we do set them up with no prepayment penalties. Mm-hmm. So if you did come into a situation where you wanted to pay down that lease faster, you would be fully able to. And the total value of that lease, when we contract for a number, mm-hmm. At that point in time, that is the cost of the project. So similar to what everyone had said, we would have to go through an assessment, bid out local subcontractors, come to a number of what that project would cost. But when we give that guaranteed max price, that is the cost, and that doesn't change.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to answer that from our standpoint, I would just say two simple points to put your the issue you raised is raised often. Just to put your mind at ease, there's a significant amount of flexibility for you on the financing side, mm-hmm. and there's a significant amount of flexibility for you on the equipment side. And we can talk more about that down the line, but I would address both the financing and the equipment, and say you have a tremendous amount of flexibility and input and control over both those items.
Thank you.
And then one more point, Ms. Emmons, I wanted to make, as far as about our development process. Vince mentioned our assessment. Once we go in, if we were awarded this, and much like we did in the first project, the first phase, we did an extensive assessment of all of the equipment, of all of the buildings. So, the concern that you brought up as far as, making sure that you're replacing the right equipment at the right time, we would, through our assessment and development process, make sure that we have identified the most feasible equipment to do at this phase, and the next phase, and the next. So just to assure you that our development process is pretty tight and well constructed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll echo that. We, particularly in light of the fact that you don't have a capital projects group, our understanding is you need help. You want help on design and engineering, and not only costing projects out and costing out, any number of projects, HVAC being one of them. You want help on that. We can help. Our engineering partner can help. Will help. We have an operating agreement. They will help. But that's step one. Step two is then okay, here's a project scope over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We'll help you with the finances. We'll help you model it out, and you'll know, again, this trade-off of how much do okay, so now I understand project scope over year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the financial burden, right? What's the how's that work? And how do I think about that? Again, doing a lot more today, pushing projects forward versus waiting will help you with that. We'll work through that. We'll model it all out. And so we'll quantify what comes out, and then you can choose which path you want to go down, how much you want to move forward, how much you want to wait on.
All right, everyone, I'm going to have to weigh in on this. I think we sufficiently have exhausted our time on this topic. I want to tell the teams, great presentations, but don't start buying it back, guys. Everybody stop now. Y'all have done a great job in presenting and obviously laying out some information for us. Again, being sensitive to time, and Madam Guider, you just so you'll know, this is something that we've been talking about, right, for a while. One more time, it highlights, it's nothing about anybody personally in this room. This is our leadership team. It's about capacity. Go back to the SPAs, go back to anything that we've ever talked about. It's like, no, guys, y'all can't handle large scale projects. You don't have the discipline. You don't have the project management skill sets. You don't have reporting. But it's not that you don't understand, it's that y'all are leaders. Leaders get things done through others. The board is saying, I'm giving you funding. I'm giving you access to go get these resources. There's no reason to all of a sudden get conservative like guys. That's what they're there for. They're there to make you look good. But again, the will of the board is that, well, we gave you $500,000. What do we? It's now implement that will. That's what y'all are doing. We're not. The board's not asking y'all to bless this. We're saying implement it. Figure out how. So these guys have come before saying, okay, you got two options. Y'all want to pay for it all up front? Great. You want to do it on financing? Great. What they're telling us is that you've got options. Madam Guider, I think at this point, there's no action in this meeting. Again, a new finance committee. I've got a new procurement officer into both presentations. I want her to weigh in on now how we will select the awardee. And as opposed to letting her hand be dealt, Director Amos, take pause out, talk to your deputy. You guys and the ACA, y'all get in the corner and y'all come back and let us know. We'll figure out how we're going to formally select how we move forward. And then obviously you guys do your negotiation after that. But I'm not doing your hand. You understand the assignment, Ms. Amos?
Yes, I understand the assignment, Commissioner Robinson.
All right, it's all on you. Madam Guy, are you okay with that? In other words, this is the presentations. There's no need to go any further until we are able to take a next step with our committee. But you get the last word on this. Please weigh in.
Yes, I would like to ask a couple of questions. Real quick, have y'all had trouble with chips not being available? Because we've got some cars that's been on order for almost a year, and we don't have them yet because of chips. I know any kind of machinery has chips in it. So we've got to look at the timing too. And of course, the inflation, we haven't witnessed inflation of this hike for 40 years or so. It's like over 7%. Is it the best timing, or should we wait till the inflation gets under control? There's a lot of factors out there that are not under our control. But my son, if he wanted to buy a car, he'd have to finance it 6 years, And by the time he pays, if he bought it today, and by the time he paid for it, the wheels would be falling off of it. I'd rather go and pay cash for it or something. So we got $500,000. Just got to stay within the budget. So I yield. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So Director Worthington, you got that double back. Obviously, you're inside that conversation with obviously Director Amos and Deputy Director and Deputy Administrator and ACA. You got that, James? Are you okay?
Certainly. We'll catch up and have some internal discussions and try to get a direction defined. In the meantime, I'd like to say thank you to I3 and Amoresco both and all the team members that are on the line for all your information. I really appreciate your help.
Great. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Great. All right. All right. Next up, it should be, I think, what's next up? Director Miller?
Next up is the Bank of America Purchasing Card Program update.
But, all right, so let me time box this. So while I'm going to have to leave in 10 minutes, I can listen to this. Madam Guider, I want you to weigh in then on TANs, because I will have to yield by that point. And so you have to listen. You guys need to present to her the facts, and she, whatever the committee is, with her leading it, will determine to make a recommendation to the board to do TANs, not do DANs, whatever the extent is. Madam Guider, I've got to leave. So I'm going to listen to this as much as I can, but I'm going to slip off. Director Miller, make sure you guys help her. Deputy, make sure you help her through this, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
Deputy Director, this is David Good.
David Good, come on in.
Speak at all today?
I'm sorry.
This is David Good from the SPOS. Did you guys need me to speak at all today with my presentation, or how did y'all want to do that?
I will yield to Commissioner Guider for that. David, I'm not quite
Deputy?
sure. Yes.
Yeah, no, David is responding to a comment during our earlier work session about a list of SPOS projects that have been aggregated to date.
Uh-huh.
So, all right, let him make his presentation at some point. I'll have to catch it later.
We'll do.
But no, he's responding to what we asked him to do. So make sure he has room, please, sir.
All right, we'll do.
Thank you. Madam Guider has it from there. She'll know what to do. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Roz,
Yes.
are we on the P-card presentation?
Yes,
Or
we
just
are.
the update? Okay, good.
I'm
So
sorry.
just to add some context before I turn it over to Justine, Commissioner Guider, we have been working with the board of with Bank of America in regards to the proposed county P-card program. Director Emmons kind of came in just recently, a few weeks ago, and has provided some excellent guidance for us. But by far and large, Justine Haywood has been driving the bus along with Rosalind Miller. And I would like to call on Justine right now to just give us a quick update on where we are with the P-card program. And then Roz and Director Emmons, if you all would weigh in as needed, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Justine?
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
There you are.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Please excuse me now for the hoarseness. If you can't hear anything that I'm saying, by all means, I'd be happy to repeat myself, but I am going to try my best to make this as quick and succinct as possible. So on behalf of the County Administrator's Office, I am very happy to report significant progress made in the county's implementation of their purchasing card program in partnership with Bank of America. We have officially completed the design phase of this project. The design phase encompassed pejoratively integrating the Works application with New World. The Works application is essentially a piece of software governed by Bank of America, and it provides real-time reporting and real-time access to transactions as individuals swipe their cards. We have successfully integrated 1,427 general ledger account codes, of which 803 codes would be used immediately after we go live with the purchasing card program. These are codes that are managed by our non-elected administration, such as development and planning, animal service, things of that sort. We've also successfully integrated 41 users into the Works application. Of that 41, 27 will be delegated card holders. These were individuals such as James Worthington, Miguel Valentine, Gary Dukes, and their direct reports that they decided should have access to a P card. The remaining 14 individuals are either delegates or administrators of the system. Delegates will be individuals such as Ms. Paula Austin, who is administrator for Chief Jolivet, Ms. Pam Austin, who's an administrative assistant for Miguel Valentine. These individuals will be able to log in, though they do not have cards. They can log in and see the transactions that their supervisors have made, allocate them to the appropriate cost code, and upload those receipts. Currently, we're in the testing phase of the project. So myself, Ms. Ammons, Ms. Miller, Ms. Julie Clark, Denise Taylor, we are going into the Works application and conducting quality review of the environment. We're testing permissions to make sure individuals only see the general ledger accounts that they're supposed to see. We are testing the approval tiers to make sure they are branched appropriately. For example, Chadwick Griffin should be branched to Gary Dukes so that Gary Dukes can approve all of his transactions. We're also testing contact information to make sure everyone's data is housed in the appropriate facility. During the quality review testing, we also will be testing the process. So we have identified 6 multi-tiered cards that will be designated kind of as fake cards, so we can perform full cycle transactions from multiple tiers, from Deputy County Administrator's Office all the way down to the bottom direct reports in Public Works, libraries, multiple areas, just so we can see what the delegates see if it was to go live, what the approvers would see if it was to go live. We also want to test what really sold the works application, which is a report that should be composite of all the transaction in one single report that should be exported from works, imported into New World, so that finance can have all the data in one piece and pay the bill singularly. That is a very integral part of the testing phase that we will hope to have done in a few weeks. While we are testing, Ms. Ammons couldn't come at a better time. Just as Deputy County Administrator mentioned, she is currently conducting a lot of our policy development surrounding P-card. It's not necessarily to recreate policy because it already exists. It's mainly to amend the policy to include P-card use to ensure that our P-card use complies with existing purchasing policy. At the end of that testing phase, our next steps will be trainings which would be specific to the groups. So users would have a different training from their delegates. Delegates would have a different training from accountants and administrators, things of that sort. We are not ready for that phase yet, but we are starting to cog our gears, understanding that at some point, individuals will need to be fully trained in what's expected of them when they use the system. Schedule-wise, we're still very much on schedule of what we are currently designed. We would hope to have trainings in place no later than the beginning of March, and we will hope to have real physical cards in our department heads' hands, by the end of March. And by the amount of progress we've made now, we are currently still on that schedule. Thank you very much for your time. I yield for any questions you may have. And again, thank you.
Okay, will you answer my question as far as the ETA of implementation? That's the end of March, you think?
Yes, ma'am. We would hope to have cards in hands by the end of March, as long as we can get our training done within the beginning of March. That's a very important piece. Ms. Ammons does not want, and obviously Deputy County Administrator agrees, no one should have a card in their hand unless they have been fully trained and acknowledged the training.
And there's 41 users.
We have 41 users, of which there are only 27 card holders. The other 14 are delegates, such as administrative assistants who have access to their supervisor's transactions. They can code on their behalf and upload receipts on their behalf. That 14 also includes administrators, such as Ms. Ammons, and accountants, such as Ms. Clark and Ms. Miller.
All right, very good. Anybody else have any questions?
Also, hi, Commissioner Latanya Ammons. Thank you so much, Justine. And I just wanted to add to everyone on the call to say that the P-card, like I said, couldn't come at a better time. And in developing the policy, it would also help move a lot of those manual transactions that we're now doing via a requisition. We can just now ease up and people can actually use the P-card. So we'll save on some capital, and your human capital expense of entering a requisition and going through all the different approvals, where now it's on your card. If it falls in line with the policy, your supervisor approves it. There's a second line approval, and then the bill is paid. And so we're able to kind of increase productivity and get items that people need for Douglas County instead of just waiting for the procurement, waiting for a PO. It's just going to cut down on time. And I think that it is definitely needed at this point.
Well, we don't have the problem now, but toward the end of the year, a lot of our funds are being depleted. What if they don't have any funds available in the line item that these items would come out of? Is there a process You just contact them and they transfer some funds or whatever?
Well, I hope I answered this question correctly. So typically, the charges are made on the card, and then you, the department head or the actual individual who's able to code it will actually code the expense in the system. And so if someone's funds are running low, the department head should already know where they are from a budgetary perspective. They should. And so at the end of the year, whatever your policy is currently now, it still should transfer over to the P-card process. But I will say this, in my past life, we shut down P-card usage 30 days before year-end close, just so everyone can get their final dollar amounts together and their final budgets. We did shut it down, and we only allow purchases from certain people that were an emergency. And so we can't institute something like that, let's say, for the month of December, as people, as we get closer to the year end.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, ladies. Roslyn, what's on the agenda next?
Would you like for David Good to go for the SPLOS?
Yes, David, this morning you gave us a recap of where we stand with the SPLOS, but you were asked to compose a list of, I guess, completed projects and then those still outstanding. Do you have that already?
Yes, I have the information that was requested. Director Miller, can I have Sharon, can you go, please?
Yes, please try now.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. But first up, this would be for a new SPLOS. Once this one ends, we'll pay off the bond coming in March, beginning of April. And then if the citizens so choose, we'll be able to go into a new SPLOS. The next page here would be the schedule, which would push how we'll end up communicating to the public about the election schedule come November 8th, 2022, to put it on the referendum. The first category would be for administration buildings. None of this has been approved by the Board of Commissioners, so this is just information that I've been told and information that I've heard, and have basically talked to Deputy Sheriff Connor in the Sheriff's Office, Director Gary Dukes in Parks and Rec, and then there's, I'll be getting with Director Valentine in Transportation, but there were a list of projects that were in the current SPLOS that we're only doing design engineering for, and then the construction would come out of the next SPLOS. First, for the administration, now these can be interchangeable between administration and one of the other categories. The buildings for building would be Chapel Hill Library, a new administration building if you guys so choose, and an annex building on the government, on the current government complex. Renovations would be the courthouse renovations for judicial use, especially once departments move out. Fire headquarters, the museum and gallery, once Parks and Rec, if they move out into an annex or into the main building, and then Selman Library improvements, renovations, and then other building improvements for any other buildings that I am not aware of.
Let me just stop you real quick, because we're being recorded.
Okay.
And this could be perceived as us advertising. And we're not supposed to advertise with taxpayer dollars for our SPLOS. And I don't have an attorney online, so I don't know if we're stepping over the line here. Now I do know what was asked is that you compile a list of projects that we will not get done that was supposed to have been done with the 2016 SPLOS, but we don't, it's gonna fall below the line. Do you have that?
Yes, let me go down to here under DOT. Well, let's see. Go down to these proposed projects and continue. The ones that have the asterisk next to it. Highway 78, John West at Baggett Road. That would be the construction phase, would not be something that we would be able to get to during the current SPOS. We were approved for design engineering for that phase.
These were proposed in the 2016.
Yes.
That we're not going to have the funds for. Is that what you're saying? Even after the when we redid the list and we added some because we've had higher collections to come in.
Right, and the way they were approved, we were approved for design engineering of these projects, and then construction phase was going to be into another SPOS. So like I said, Highway 78, John West, Highway 166 at Post Road, Highway 166 at Chapel Hill Road. We will be doing the design engineering in the current SPOS, and then for a future SPOS, those things will be something that's below the line that we won't be able to get to in the current SPOS.
And it's just the ones with the, it's kind of small, so I'm reading it as I'm going down, but it's the ones with the asterisks that will not.
Correct.
That's falling below the line.
Correct. Araya Road and Highway 5, and then the Bright Star Road from Counter Mill Road to Douglas Boulevard, the construction phase. So we will do the design engineering for all of these. They have the asterisk, but we won't get to the construction phase for those SPOS and for those items in the current SPOS, which ends in at the end of March 2023.
Okay. I see a lot of them in my district. Then, yeah. But the other list that you were originally showing, and I just don't want to cross the line because there is, it can be perceived that we're using tax dollars to push projects. So
I understand.
Okay. So, but you're not through with this, are you?
I know this was just a preliminary of those projects that have been discussed before, and as well as coming from the sheriff's office. But as you said, that you didn't want to, go
Okay,
ahead.
and I haven't met with you either because
Correct.
I saw a big project that was not on there.
I understand.
Tiffany, have you got a question about what we're talking about?
Oh, yes. No, I was just asked to clarify that Mr. Good, he was making a list of, he's just making a list. He and I met, and we talked about him making a list of projects that were not completed, but also projects that he's doing his work as communications director and his conversations with commissioners that could be potential projects in the future. And so that's why he was providing that information. So I
wasn't sure if we could actually show those because then we're advertising for projects.
Okay. Yeah.
What I'm saying. So I didn't know if that was legal or not. So I'd rather be safe than sorry. and since the list is not complete anyway, I'd rather not show that at this time. Now,
I understand.
Huh?
I said, well, I understand. Thank you, ma'am.
But I do remember them saying that they wanted you to show the projects that was approved in the 2016, but we will not get to them. So they would be rolled over, is what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if it didn't have an asterisk by it,
those would be newer. Those would be projects that would come into something future.
Could each of the commissioners get a copy of that list?
Yes, ma'am, we'll do.
And
also, I'll make it available to Deputy Director Perry and Mayor Stanley.
Okay, and then we will we'll get an updated report on the others later.
Okay.
It's just I'd have to talk to an attorney whether or not that was legal for us to do that.
I understand.
Okay.
All right.
You got anything else that you want?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, David.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Roslyn?
Okay. The next would be TANs.
Okay, now I assume that's you.
Yes. I am sharing my screen. So, bottom line is, I don't anticipate needing a TANs this year.
Good.
At the bottom, you'll see that this is, usually it's in the negative, but this is stating that this will be your lowest balance. And what it's doing is taking our beginning balance and adding any deposits and minusing the check disbursements and payroll. So in September will be our lowest balance of 2.4 million. However, the next month, the month of October is when we receive the insurance premium tax payment. And we also receive taxes that has come in early for property tax bills. So I anticipate not needing a TANs for 2022. You know, at the top, this is an average of expenditures and revenue, and this is a monthly average. And even if you take a look here, it's offsetting.
Mm-hmm.
And at the bottom here, when it's all said and done, you can see that it's pretty close to the beginning cash, because our cash receipts and our cash disbursements are really close in line. So it's like a net effect.
We didn't have any last year, did we? Did we have TANs last year?
Yes, we had 12 million.
Okay, 12 million last year. So this is very good news. Of course, the interest rate, I guess, is still quite low.
Yeah, the interest and the cost of issuance, it was total about 130,000.
Okay. Now, do we want? Well, since Commissioner Robinson's not here, and I'm just filling in for him, we might want to wait till our next meeting to make a recommendation.
Definitely. And I think that's fair. And again, you're talking about your very late meeting it. Usually in the past, you would receive it in June or July.
Right.
And so I'm anticipating, if the board chooses to, and again, this is cash flow, and this is a perfect world. If everything that you've cut and clears the same amount, that's what your remaining cash balance would be, 2.4 million.
Now, with the revenues, is that sales tax also?
Yes, this is everything.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that because of the inflation, the revenues, sales will be going down. So I don't know how much it may affect us, but we need to kind of watch that on the national level, because it will affect us on the local level.
Yes, I think so. Supply and demand, yes.
Well, they're just saying people aren't spending as much because their dollars don't go as far.
Right.
So, okay. Well, we'll wait and talk about this at our next meeting.
Okay.
So that Commissioner Robinson have a weigh in on it. Okay.
Okay. I will add to make sure that it's on the agenda for next month.
But it is very good news if it holds up.
Yes. And I think it will.
All right.
Okay.
Anything? Okay. I guess you've got the next one, the the audit.
Yes. The next is an engagement letter. And the engagement letter is just expectations that the auditors are expecting from management, Douglas County management, and expectations that Douglas County management is requiring for the audit. This is a annual engagement letter. It identifies the expectations, and then also it lists the dollar amount and when the audit begins. So for, and as you know, we're on a calendar year, so the audit would be for 2021. And 2021's audit would be due to the state June the 30th. So the auditors are expecting to begin the audit, 2021's audit, March the 21st. And the cost of the audit would be $74,000.
Now, have we already approved that?
No, I'm just presenting it to the finance committee now. Yes, no, nothing has been approved.
But we don't have to rebid or anything.
No,
usually we keep the same auditor about 3 or 4 years.
Yes, I'm not sure how long you've had Maulding and Jenkins, but usually with the audit, it is a little bit longer because of the startup. It will, like when you get a new auditor, it'll cost a lot more because they have to get familiar with your, your general ledger and financial policies.
Well, let's see, we have another meeting between now and March 21st. Is there a time deadline on this? Should we go ahead and make a recommendation now or wait for Commissioner Robinson to return?
I would request that you make the recommendation now because, as I mentioned, that they're anticipating starting March the 21st, so they would have to get their team ready. So they're looking for maybe next week that we provide them with the engagement letter.
Well, could I have a recommendation from anyone, a motion to proceed with Mauldin and Jenkins for the 2021 audit in the amount of $74,000?
So moved, Madam Guider.
I've got a motion. Now, do I have a second? Second?
Yes.
So, as we go, I don't remember everybody's name that's on the committee, so we will vote, just go around the room and do it, and I will say yay. And
Deputy County Administrator, yay.
All right.
Rosalind Miller, Finance, yes.
Okay. And who else? Is James on? No.
I am not a voting member in this committee.
Okay.
I think the only two left would be Vice Chair Robinson and Assistant County Administrator Stuart Stanley.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't see her on here, so she may be.
Yeah, she's with Vice Chair.
Okay.
But maybe not speak.
So, who else did you say?
It would just be the five of us, if I'm not mistaken. And three of us have voted yes.
Okay, and that's the only three that's online now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, well, we have a vote of 3-0. I guess. All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
The next is the report.
All right. And I will turn that over to you too.
Okay, I will start. Let me get to it. Okay. Well, today is the report for December And as you are aware that we continue to update December, the month of December's financials until we actually finalize and close out our books. And we usually close out, we're anticipating closing 2021, of course, by March the 21st, since the auditors will be in. So usually it's about a week or two. So I would say by March 1st, we should have a better picture. So today I call it our version 2 because last meeting we did an update as of January, I believe the 14th. So what you will see in the report, and it's similar to last month, is that there is a decrease in revenue. The decrease has gotten smaller, but when you compare 2020 with our ending of 2021, there is a decrease of $2.2 million. And when we get to the detailed report, I will be able to identify that decrease. I've also highlighted it at the bottom right here where it says the total taxes increased by $8.4 million, and then you have federal grants that we did not receive in the year of 2021. It decreased by $6.7 million. So that is kind of offset and mixed up that $2 million of the decrease. Also in expenditures, you'll see that the county expenditures are still under budget by 5.17. Last month it was about 6%. But as I mentioned, we're closing our books. We're starting to receive invoices that were for services rendered in last year. So we're making payments to those. The next is our four major funds that I will go into detail. However, this financial report before you shows the anticipated or projected fund balance, ending fund balance for each fund, and it identifies how much is unassigned, meaning how much is not reserved or not restricted, money that you can use for the operation of the fund. So for general fund, the ending fund balance is $40.5 million. However, what's unassigned is $33.5 million. For unincorporated, their ending fund balance is $4.5 million. And what is unassigned is $4.5 million. And this is POs, $9,000. This is PO that we have to hold, and it's an obligation. So that's what's a minor change.
Wait a minute. What do you mean a PO? That's an outstanding purchase order?
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The next is fire services and EMS. The ending fund balance is $1.1 million. However, their unassigned is $691,000. Animal control, ending fund balance is $473,000, and the unassigned is $446,000. Now we can get into what I actually mentioned before. When comparing for taxes, when you're comparing last year's with this year, you see $8.4 million increase, and that is if you look at current, it's real property for current, what's on the digest. Another line item that has increased is prior year on digest, and that's about 1 million. The next we have TAV tax, and that's about 1.4 million. And the next is loss. Last year it's 19 million. This is 21 million. So that's a $2.2 million increase. And as you see, we've collected in this section, 112% has been collected when compared to budget.
But you're reflecting this in your trend as far as ending fund balance, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
The next is our intergovernmental, and this is grants. And as I mentioned, you see that last year was we received 9.9 million in grant funds. This year only 3.2, so that's a decrease of 6.7, and it's in the federal grants. If you take a look at that, that's where the decrease is. Charges for services, there is a $200,000 increase. The next you have court and services, and it's a $400,000 increase.
Speak back up, isn't it?
Yeah. Next area is use of property and money. Next is miscellaneous. And this is pretty close to last year's. And next is other financing sources. And this increase is for COVID, the 4.1 million. It was the funds for COVID for public safety. For this year, it's for the hazard pay of 1.6. Okay, and so this shows your total revenue. As I mentioned, looking at last year, it's $2.2 million. The next is expenditures. In each area, it's under budget. The total of each area, you find that it is under budget. And overall, the total expenditures is 107.8 million. The budget was 113.7, so it's a 5% under budget. So that means it's 94.83% spent of the budget. The next is the unincorporated area. When comparing with 2020's revenue, you see an increase of 1.3 million, and it's several areas. One is your zoning, mobile homes, maps, and street lights. You see there's an increase of, looks like about $527,000. Another increase is...
Wait a minute. Zoning, mobile homes, maps, and street lights, and it went up $500,000? Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying, yes.
Something's gotta be wrong. That's 1,000%.
500,000. Yes, I'll take a look at it. I will.
We might better check that one. We better check that one.
Okay, I'm writing that one down.
I think somebody put their decimal in the wrong place.
Yeah. Okay, I'm writing this down just a second. Okay. All right. I will make a note of that. And the expenditures. You have last year's total expenditures was 10.4 million. This year is 9.5. The next is fire. Fire's revenue is 21.6 million last year and 17.4 million this year.
So that is what caused that, I wonder.
It's the grant for the COVID.
Okay, I got you.
Public safety, yes. And their expenditures was 20.5 last year. This year, not this year, I'm sorry. Last year.
I know it.
Yeah. Oh no, I got all my years wrong. So 2020, 20.5, and then last year 17.13 million, and that was expenditures. And as I mentioned, that fire services and EMS fund balance is 1.1 million. However, 691,000 is unassigned.
Okay, now that's after he transferred 500,000. He used 500,000 for incentive.
Not yet.
Not yet. Is it not allocated or encumbered?
No, it's not, because he's going to use it in this year in 2022. So this is December. So it's
I got you.
Yeah.
Wrong year.
But you're right. But that's what they're anticipating to do.
Now the fund balance for like fire and EMS, it doesn't roll over into their fund balance?
Yes, it does. They have their own separate fund balance. Yes.
So he may get another $500,000 to roll over into 2022. Is that right? If I can read, I can't hardly read it. It's so little. But anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
that's much better.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Well, only if in 2022, only if his revenue is would be $500,000 more than his expenditures. But the budget, there was no increase in fees, so we're anticipating that his revenue will be in line with 17 million, and his expenditure is going to be 17 million plus the 500,000, so 17.5. So if revenue is quite consistent,
I have it depleted. Is what
that is correct. They will be taking
because
away
the other 500 is already.
That is correct. They will be taking. It would be minus 500,000 from this number.
I got you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Okay. Next is animal control, and in 2020, the revenue was $1 million. In 2021, revenue is 1.4 million. Expenses, 2020, 1.1 million, and last year 1.2. Revenue minus expenditures we're anticipating, adding to fund balance by $200,000.
Okay. So all of them finished in the black.
Yes, so far.
So far. Uh-oh.
Well, I think this is good. I think we're pretty close, like I said.
This late date, unless they've got a big invoice out there.
Right. So the next is the contingency summary, and it has not changed since last meeting, since the last meeting. It's still the same. But of course, now this money does not carry over. This will go away. Like, let's say that this is still the ending balance. This number will go away. The only thing that will not go away, if we have already encumbered funds, then we will carry those over to next year, but we won't carry over this remaining balance of $2 million.
It goes into fund balance.
That is correct. And the board, if they choose, the board can increase the contingency back by $2 million or another. I think it in 2022's budget, contingency was $350,000.
That's what was budgeted for 2022.
Yes.
Okay, the wage adjustments, are all of those already reflected in these figures?
The wage,
the 5%, the 2%.
It came from ARPA. Not this contingency.
But any wage, I know some of the officials came back and talked to us and everything. Of course, some of them still out there.
That is correct. Right.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we have.
We're still waiting on final from the board to approve. Yes.
So this is what's on here is a contingency fund.
Right, for last year, for 2021.
Okay.
Because if you recall, the board initially it was only for $275,000, the contingency, but the board approved $625,000 in each one of these areas. So, and then this wage adjustment was only for wage adjustments that if an error or something occurred in a salary that had to be changed or bumped, adjusted.
But all of these contingency funds, well, we still have 625 in each one of these categories in the budget, in the 2022 budget. Is that right?
No, this does not carry over. This will go away.
But was it allocated for the budget? 625. Do we have?
No, not in 2022's budget.
So why did we do?
It was
this is something new. That's why I'm asking you this. This is just something new that we've never done before. But I'm just asking, why was it put in the budget this way as a contingency fund for all this? Was it from ARPA or something?
No, the board it was the increase for keeping the millage rate the same. The increase was $2.5 million. And so the board approved to create a contingency for these areas, for a general contingency, a capital, grant, and wage adjustment.
But we didn't do it in the 2022 budget.
Right, because per policy, you have to have the same amount of revenue as last year.
Okay, so we've got higher revenue.
Right, yeah. You have to, like, you can do it, but you won't know until
later on in the year.
That is correct. Because this was done in July, late July, when the board approved or set the millage rate. That's when the board approved the 2.5 million in contingency. So you can do it again, but it would be in July when you'll be able to.
Yeah, well, some of it's a good idea, especially, the capital contingency.
Yes.
Grant match, because we never know what that's going to be.
That is correct.
So I just wonder why we don't make this a permanent, policy in our budget. I don't like to do things one year and not do it the next year because it's very confusing why you didn't do it.
That is correct. I'm trying to explain it. Yeah.
Yes. I like to be consistent in the way we set up the accounts and everything.
I agree. I totally agree.
Madam Guider, may I ask a question, please?
Yes. Go ahead.
Director Miller, the contingency funds, you said that they were set up in 2021 in June or mid-year?
No, when we set the millage rate.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the plan for 2022 as well?
We don't know.
No.
That's what I'm asking. Why aren't we consistent? See, we didn't roll the millage rate back. And so we knew we were going to collect, $2 million extra for not rolling it back. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
And so we took that $2 million and set it up in these contingency funds.
Yeah.
Establish these contingency funds, really.
That is correct. Right.
Gotcha. That was it.
Okay. You're spending that money already, aren't you?
That's what it sounds like.
He saw dollar sign.
He did. I know. I can hear
it's not a bad idea to have these contingency funds, especially, we have a capital outlay fund, and we really need to leave that in there for special things like we had it in the board meeting this morning. But we tend to spend it as soon as we put it in there. But some of these other things, you just never know what's going to pop up. And like the capital contingency, that's just for everyday stuff and repair work there in the courthouse, I would assume, mostly. But then if you scroll on down, grant match. We never know what our grant match is in. If we don't have it in the transportation contingency or capital, then we are up the creek. We have to borrow it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Madam Gutter, I agree. It wasn't that I had the money spent, but I just like the setup here of the contingency funds. You're exactly right about the grant match. I mean, know what grants pop up during the course of the year that require a small match. So yeah, that definitely that line item as well as
spend it when we need it. Absolutely need it. It's a contingency.
Yep. Yeah. So I agree with the setup here, and hopefully the board will consider doing it again in 2022.
I agree. I agree. So anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Director.
Deputy. Okay.
Okay. Keep up with these titles, I'm telling you.
So the next is lost and lost trending, and as David Good mentioned early this morning about actually your SPLOS, but the loss is when comparing to last year, it is an increase of $265,000. And of course, this is, based off of the loss agreement of the 66.30%.
But let's really watch these figures here, because from what I'm hearing, because of inflation, some of this may go down. So let's watch the trend on it.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Okay. And so for SPLOST, you see the 2.8% and not percent, but 2.8 million in 2020 compared to 2021 at 3.2 million, and it's an increase of 400,000.
That's for that's in January of this year.
Right. It's we received it in January, but it's for December.
Correct.
Yeah, the state has a month lag.
Yes. They ought to pay us interest for holding our money in their bank.
Well, good luck with that.
We talked about that with them before.
I know, yeah. The next is our pay-go, and also, as David mentioned, it tells you the total amount of revenue that we received for the life of SPLOST 2016, how much of the debt service is due. This is your pay-go, how much is available for checks for projects.
That money's already spent, right? Or has it been depleted?
Not depleted, but it does have, this number does not include outstanding purchase orders, but it's sitting in the bank.
Okay.
The next is the health care fund, and comparing with last year. The program for the health care fund for charges for services, so far we've collected 97.4% of the 16.1 million. We've collected 97%. For expenditures, the total expenses are 95.11. Revenues minus expenses, we have 378,000 going to fund balance. Beginning fund balance was 2.9 million, and we're ending the year with 3.3. And again, healthcare claims, they're also on, I believe, 60-day lag too. So this fund will be changing.
It's still looking pretty good.
Yeah, it is. Especially compared to previous.
Yes, but we were in the hole.
Right. But again, I think, in 2020 and some of the beginning of 2021, it was due to a lot of, procedures were not being done because of COVID. So, yeah. I think that is it. That is all for that I have. And I think we've covered the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, did you send us a copy of this report?
I did. I can send you another.
If you sent, when did you send it? Was it today?
Yeah, it was today.
Okay. If you would, make sure we get the minutes and everything, because I didn't have time to read them. But I had looked this morning to see if I had them. but I didn't see them. But
That's fine. I can resend it, and then I will make it practice that I send you the minutes at least ahead of time.
but all of your projections and everything as far as fund balance, I want to reiterate this, reflects the increase in revenues and reflects the decrease in expenditures.
Yes.
Okay. So there shouldn't be too many big surprises, I wouldn't think, but
So we never know, because it could be an invoice dated 2021 that is sitting on a desk, and once they submit it, then it will hit the numbers. Because as I mentioned, we're going to wait until we have to do it, close our books, definitely before March the 21st when the auditors come. So
that would be encumbered though, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. It would be in this number.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everything looks pretty good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Has anybody got anything else they want to bring before the committee?
No, ma'am.
All right. Good to weigh in there. All right. It's 5 o'clock, so somewhere. So
It's 5 o'clock here.
It's 5 o'clock, right?
It is 5 o'clock here. Okay. All right. Well, thank everybody for your participation and your input and everything. And thank you, Rosalind. And if there's nothing to come before the board, we will be dismissed.